Cardano's recent price action is indicating that it could potentially be one of the strongest of like the made in America crypto. So I want to talk a little bit more about that today. Obviously, XRP, Solana, Bitcoin, Ethereum, all these others have been kind of rumored to be added to this Bitcoin strategic reserve. But Cardano is the one in particular that I think has seen some pretty interesting moves. And so I wanted to kind of dig into that a little bit and just kind of talk about, kind of what this could mean. Does this mean good things long-term for Cardano? Does it mean good things short-term? A lot of that type of stuff. So anyway, let's go ahead. We'll dive right in and we'll take a quick look starting out with the crypto bubbles. We can see crypto bubbles on the day looking pretty negative overall. And this is also looking the same way for the week. We actually can see Cardano down right here about 25% on the week, which is a pretty crazy amount just for such a short period of time. However, if we do look at the month, we can see that Cardano is up here 5.9% because we saw this absolutely ridiculous jump on the news of the crypto strategic reserve. We're going to be talking about this piece or like this price action specifically here pretty closely in a second. What we can see is this is one of the very, very few that's actually positive on the month. And this includes a lot of these like American cryptos, right? So we can see here Solana down 33%. We can see Bitcoin down 14%. We can see Ethereum down 20%. I mean, crazy moves here. I'm not actually able to see XRP right now. I'm sure some of you watch. Oh, right here, XRP 9%. So XRP, I would say kind of relatively probably strong compared to the rest, but Cardano's up over the past month, right? So obviously a really good move from them. I want to take just a quick look at the Cardano chart. And what we can see here on the Cardano chart is this just God candle right here. I mean, this is crazy, right? So I want to talk a little bit about that, a little bit about why that could be. And also let's zoom out and look at just the wider Cardano chart overall, because I think what's so important here is, let me get this into full screen. If we could see, we obviously saw this really huge pump kind of after the Trump election. We saw this kind of come back down a little bit, but then we saw this crazy candle coming up almost to previous kind of highs that we did see after the election. And then obviously we have kind of sold back off a little bit from there, but obviously showing that there's a really strong move inbound, or Cardano's always essentially ready to make this type of crazy move. This move, I believe, was a 62% move in one day, which is absolutely insane. A lot of these other American cryptos didn't really do anything that crazy. I mean, obviously crazy comparative, right? I mean, a lot of them were up 20 to 30%, but Cardano doing absolutely crazy numbers at over 60%. And so I think to me that indicates that Cardano is essentially, it could be one of the strongest American cryptos because it's also holding so well. A lot of the cryptos that we've seen previous are actually either close to or below the kind of prices that they were seeing before the election. Solana, I know for sure, is below there. Ethereum, I think, is kind of teetering on that edge. Bitcoin's getting very close. XRP has actually held pretty well, but Cardano and XRP are basically the only two that have held quite strongly from like a price perspective, which I do think is very interesting. Now, if we also look here, we can see Crypto Banter released a poll with 17,000 votes, and we can see which US coin do you think has the brightest future. Over 50% said Cardano, which is crazy because you have to think there's 17,000 people here. XRP's included, Solana's included, AVAX is included, and Cardano is still getting over 50%. That's crazy. So this is obviously showing some very positive sentiment from just kind of the wider crypto community, that they're very strong believers in Cardano. And I think that also kind of goes to show with some of this type of price action and price movement from within like the Cardano chart. If you are interested in trading Cardano, one other thing that I think is kind of interesting, particularly when we're seeing charts like this, is Phemex does allow both spot trading, futures trading, leverage trading, all that type of stuff. They also allow grid bots as well. And I think grid bots are super cool. You can see that this 20x long grid bot for Cardano has actually made 177% over the past 164 days that it's been active. So it's not like this has just been around for a super short period of time. But we can see this one's long, this one's neutral, this one's long. A lot of these doing very well though, which is pretty impressive. So I really like having these like trading bots, particularly when we're seeing this ridiculous level of volatility throughout the entire crypto market. I do think that these are actually really cool. So like I said, I've got all the links in the description below if you want, Phemex or BTCC or WEEX or whatever kind of seems seems to make the most sense for you or work for you, I've got all those down in the description below, but I do really think that these bots are quite cool. So anyway, moving on, the other thing I want to take a quick look at here is we can see that Cardano massively outperforms in Grayscale's top 10 crypto assets weekly snapshot. So what we can see here is if we zoom in, we can see 1 week, and this came out as of March 6th, so a handful of days ago, but I think kind of the theory and the sentiment kind of remains the same, I would say. We can see kind of, return year to date, almost the top. XRP is actually the top here. Market cap, still one of the smaller ones too, which I do think actually leaves us for some pretty nuts upside if it does kind of continue doing how it's been doing. And then we can see in the return on the week, 40% on the week, over double Hedera, and then XRP kind of close behind there, Chainlink, Bitcoin, Tron, and Solana, all the others that are actually pretty close and had positive weekly returns, Binance, Doge, and Ethereum all having negative weekly returns. So pretty interesting. I think there's a lot of positive sentiment surrounding Cardano. I think there's a lot of things that are kind of leading to this and causing a lot of this bullish sentiment. I think Charles Hoskinson is one that has been really kind of front and center, really guiding the direction of Cardano and staying front and center and kind of giving a lot of the people the motivation and the vision and a lot of that type of stuff that they need. One of the things that we've seen from Ethereum that I think is a little bit strange is that Vitalik has kind of fallen back and kind of taken more of a backseat role in the development of the Ethereum ecosystem. And it's interesting because I think you can tangibly feel kind of that lack of presence within the Ethereum ecosystem. So that's something that I do think is very strange, both from the Ethereum side, but also you can tell when you have that type of person and that type of person is involved and remains involved, like Charles Hoskinson, you can see how that does impact the community and how it impacts the sentiment generally for something like Cardano. Now, the main important thing that I would like to focus on with Cardano, though, is we need to continue to see developer adoption. We need to continue to see kind of like mass adoption of apps being developed and created on Cardano. I think that's kind of the big hole that the Cardano ecosystem is missing right now. If/when that can get fixed, I think that's going to be very bullish, both mid, short, and long term for Cardano. That to me seems to be kind of the main hole that is missing there. This always can be fixed. One of the things that I think is, or at least from what I've heard, is it's relatively difficult to develop on Cardano. And so I do wonder if we can come up with some various kind of coding like help guides, or maybe even like using AI, right? Using AI that can kind of intuit kind of like the standard coding languages. Think like, I don't know, Swift, React, C#, all this other type of stuff. I'm not a coder. These are just, I have a coder friends, and these are the words that I hear them use. But if we could take a lot of these coding languages and essentially have like some sort of AI application, AI bot, something like that can kind of intuit the standard code into something that kind of is compliant with Cardano's ecosystem, that could be really cool. And so that's something that I wanted to kind of talk about and focus on specifically, is because I do think the biggest place that Cardano is getting beat right now is on the ecosystem. I think that can easily be changed. I think the community is very strong. I think from a tech perspective, everybody sees it. Everybody knows why it's bullish kind of long term. There's a lot of some big pieces like Midnight, for example, that is coming out that I think a lot of people are looking forward to. But it remains at that kind of developer adoption, the apps, the ecosystem flywheel that we haven't necessarily seen take off on Cardano yet. That remains to be the biggest problem. That's basically the only thing. We obviously, we've seen that price is very bullish. People will obviously, get involved with the Cardano ecosystem when they can see that bullish sentiment is there. There's also a lot of people who I think understand, they believe in Charles Hoskinson and the vision and a lot of that type of stuff. And so they do have some of that benefit as well. Overall, I would say, pretty bullish on Cardano. I think really from like a TLDR type of perspective, what we're seeing both from price action as well as fundamentals, markets, news, press, all that type of stuff, is that our Cardano has a lot of those things in place. The biggest thing is they just kind of need that ecosystem flywheel to take off, like we have seen take off very successfully in Solana. that is something that, you know, that Solana, I would say, is probably the poster child for having that kind of ecosystem flywheel that a lot of people have kind of come to appreciate from the Solana ecosystem. I think other projects can do the same thing. They just need to kind of have some of those virality and those apps take off. Obviously, Pump.fun is kind of an ecosystem maker for Solana in itself. So we need to see something like that kind of coming through Cardano. And I do think, you know, law of large numbers and the law of time, as long as more apps come out, as more developers get onboarded, as more just kind of stuff happens on Cardano, I do think we will start to see things like that happen. So anyway, those are kind of my thoughts on the Cardano ecosystem. Overall, looking pretty good. Obviously, in a wider market where things are looking pretty bearish just for the crypto market overall, I do think that Cardano is going to probably do relatively well relative to some of these other major cryptos in the space. That doesn't mean price is going to go up. Price may still go down, but I think will do relatively well kind of comparative to the overall space. So we'll have to see. Generally, in times like this, Bitcoin is the best place to have your money stored if you're looking to be in crypto at all, just because Bitcoin dominance usually rises in more bearish periods. But it's hard to say for sure. You know, I do think that eventually we'll start to see some of this flip. And even though the kind of the macro environment is fairly bearish, the environment surrounding crypto regulation, crypto innovation, a lot of this type of stuff, AI, even more than that, all of this stuff I would say is fundamentally very, very bullish. So even though the macro environment may not be particularly positive, when the macro environment flips around, I think we're going to see crypto take off like an absolute rocket just because of all the fundamental things. People can see what's going on. And even if we look at the charts, with all the volatility we've seen, people want crypto, right? It's just we aren't quite there yet from a macroeconomic perspective. And so I think that's what's so important that we just kind of keep in mind and take note of. I personally I'm not buying things quite yet, just because I do think, given the recent weakness that we have seen in the market, we'll probably continue to go a little further down. But once we get there, I'll obviously be back buying again and DCAing into a lot of my long-term kind of high conviction plays. So anyway, that's what I'm looking at. Obviously, nothing in this video has been financial advice. This is just kind of my thoughts on the market, kind of me trying to make the best sense that I can out of what we're seeing within the overall market. Obviously, if you did find it helpful and useful, a like and a subscribe is super, super useful. I'm always trying to continue to grow my channel, all that type of good stuff. And so your support really, really does help me out. Also, if you have any comments, thoughts, feelings, questions, whatever, just drop them in the comment section below. I do read and respond to all of those. So if you have anything you want me to see, that'd be a great way to do it. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.